Ambassador Jack Reynolds stared at his reflection in the shuttle viewport, adjusting his regulation tie for the 7th time. The stars beyond looked unimpressed with his efforts. "You've got this, Jack," he muttered. "First human diplomat to meet an alien species. No pressure. Just don't start an interstellar war." The truth was that Jack Reynolds hadn't been Earth's first choice for this historic meeting, or their second, or even their 10th. But after a series of unfortunate staffing issues, including the original ambassador's sudden development of spontaneous anti-gravity sickness, Jack had been bumped from his position as junior cultural attaché to humanity's first interstellar ambassador, a position for which he was, by all professional standards, catastrophically unqualified. The diplomatic shuttle docked with a gentle thud at the neutral station where humanity would meet the Thaxians for the first time. The Thaxians, tall, elegant beings with iridescent skin and elaborate cranial ridges, had discovered Earth 6 months ago and initiated contact. They were reportedly a dignified, highly ceremonial species with cultural protocols that stretched back millennia. Jack's supervisor had given him one simple instruction: just follow the protocol guide. Don't improvise. But Jack Reynolds had never met a protocol he couldn't accidentally set on fire. The airlock hissed open. A delegation of 7 Thaxians stood in perfect formation, their translucent robes shimmering under the station lights. Their leader, High Emissary Vorraxian, stepped forward and performed a complex gesture with all 4 of his upper limbs. "Greetings, representative of Earth," the translation system intoned. "We come in peaceful communion to establish relations between our ancient civilization and your emerging one." Jack smiled broadly. This was going well. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small package he'd brought along, ignoring the panicked look from his aide. "High Emissary Vorraxian, as a token of Earth's friendship, I present this traditional human gift." The protocol guide had mentioned bringing a symbolically significant item. Jack had chosen what he thought was perfectly harmless, a handcrafted music box that played Beethoven's Ode to Joy. As Vorraxian accepted the gift with ceremonial gravity, Jack pressed the small button to demonstrate its function. The delicate melody began to play, and that's when all 7 Thaxians simultaneously collapsed to the floor, their bodies convulsing. "Oh God, what's happening?" Jack's aide shrieked. "Did you poison them?" It's just a music box," Jack protested, lunging forward to try to help the writhing aliens. What Jack didn't know, what no human could have known, was that the particular frequencies of Beethoven's masterpiece, when played through the antique mechanism, created a resonance pattern that directly stimulated the Thaxians' sensitive neural clusters to them. It was like being hit with a sonic stun grenade. The station's automated defense systems, detecting the incapacitated Thaxians, immediately identified a potential biological attack. Emergency containment protocols activated. Alarm klaxons blared. Quarantine barriers slammed down. "It's not an attack," Jack shouted at the security cameras. "It's Beethoven." 3 hours later, after medical teams had revived the Thaxian delegation and diplomatic channels had been temporarily restored, Jack stood before a furious communications screen linking him to Earth Command. "Let me get this straight, Reynolds," General Harris growled. "Our first contact with an alien species, and you gave them a gift that essentially tasered their entire delegation." Jack winced. "In my defense, sir, the cultural briefing didn't mention their neural sensitivity to." "Spare me. The Thaxians are demanding a formal apology and reparations. They've classified human gifts as potential bioweapons. That seems a bit extreme." "Reynolds, you've single-handedly created the galactic impression that humans cannot be trusted with gift-giving. Pack your bags. You're being reassigned to outpost Delta 9. Jack's heart sank. Delta 9 was the diplomatic equivalent of being sent to monitor penguin migrations in Antarctica. His promising career had lasted exactly 3 hours and 27 minutes. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of humanity's gift-giving reputation across the stars. Outpost Delta 9 orbited an unremarkable dwarf star on the edge of human-controlled space. Its primary function, as far as Jack could tell after 6 months of assignment, was to collect space dust and crush the souls of disgraced diplomats. Jack had developed a routine: wake up, check the outdated communication arrays for messages that never came, eat a nutritional paste that allegedly tasted like chicken, and spend hours designing elaborate paper airplanes from his diplomatic manuals. New personal best, he announced to the empty monitoring station as his latest creation sailed across the room and wedged itself perfectly into a ventilation duct. The communication con suddenly blared to life, startling Jack so badly he fell out of his chair. The screen flickered to reveal Commander Diana Frost, Director of Interspecies Relations and Jack's former superior. Her expression was the precise midpoint between professional composure and existential dread. "Reynolds," she said, her voice clipped. "Unfortunately, I need to speak with you." Jack straightened his wrinkled uniform to Commander Frost. What an unexpected pleasure. "If this is about those requisition forms for more toilet paper, I can explain." "This isn't about your bathroom supplies, Reynolds. It's about the Vorraxians." Jack blinked. "The who now?" "The Vorraxian Empire. Powerful species, militaristic culture, exoskeleton warriors." Frost's eye twitched slightly. "They've requested negotiations with humanity regarding contested resource-rich systems near their territory." "Sounds important. I'm sure our top diplomats will handle it brilliantly." "Our top diplomats," Frost said slowly, as if each word caused her physical pain, "have all refused the assignment." "All of them? Why?" "Because the Vorraxians specifically requested you." Jack nearly choked on his own surprise. "Me? But I'm the guy who almost started a war with a music box." "Precisely." Frost's expression darkened. Apparently, news of your incident has spread. The Vorraxians believe you deployed a sophisticated neural disruption weapon against the Thaxians. They're impressed by your strategic boldness and want to negotiate with, and I'm quoting directly here, "the most dangerous diplomatic weapon in the human arsenal." Jack stared at the screen. "They think I'm some kind of psychological warfare expert?" "Yes, and we need these negotiations to succeed, Reynolds. The contested systems contain elements critical to our terraforming projects." "But Commander, shouldn't we correct their misunderstanding? I'm not a..." "What you are, Reynolds, is our only option. The transport will arrive tomorrow. Try not to cause an interstellar incident this time." The screen went dark. Jack sat in stunned silence for several minutes before mumbling, "No pressure then." The next day, as he packed his meager belongings, Jack decided that proper preparation would be key to avoiding disaster. Unlike the Thaxian incident, he would research everything about Vorraxian culture and biology before selecting an appropriate gift. The transport ship's database contained limited information on the insectoid Vorraxians, but Jack studied every detail obsessively during the week-long journey. They were a proud warrior culture with complex honor codes and ritualized combat traditions. Most importantly, they seemed to have no neural sensitivities to specific frequencies. A safe bet would be something completely non-reactive, Jack mused as he scrolled through Earth's cultural catalogue. No sounds, no smells, no moving parts. The ship's botanist, intrigued by Jack's dilemma, suggested a solution. What about a succulent? They're practically indestructible, symbolize endurance, and are completely harmless. Jack brightened. A plant. Perfect. Living symbol of peace and growth, but totally non-threatening. As the transport approached the massive Vorraxian station, Jack felt confident. He had his strategy, his carefully selected gift, and most importantly, a clear understanding of what not to do. What could possibly go wrong? The Vorraxian diplomatic chamber resembled a cross between a throne room and an arsenal. Weapons adorned every wall ceremonial, Jack hoped, and the lighting was dim and reddish, presumably to accommodate the Vorraxians' compound eyes. Jack was accompanied by Nex Tara, a slender, blue-skinned Altrusian assigned as his cultural advisor. Nex Tara had spent the last hour frantically briefing Jack on last-minute protocol details. Remember, Ambassador Reynolds, the Vorraxians value directness, but interpret rapid blinking as a challenge. And whatever you do, Do not show the underside of your wrists to the war commander. Why? What does that mean to them? It translates roughly to I've mated with your spawning relative and found the experience lacking. Jack nodded seriously. Right. Keep wrists facing up. Got it. A massive door slid open with a hiss, and 3 Vorraxians entered the chamber. Their exoskeletons gleamed like polished obsidian, articulated plates shifting with mechanical precision as they moved. The central figure, nearly 7 feet tall, wore elaborate armor adorned with what appeared to be battle trophies. War Commander Krasai announced a metallic voice from somewhere above, supreme military authority of the Vorraxian hegemony. Jack stepped forward, careful to maintain eye contact while minimizing blinks. War Commander, I am Jack Reynolds, representing Earth and the Human Alliance. I come with peaceful intentions and open dialogue. He performed the traditional Vorraxian greeting, a closed fist pressed to the opposite shoulder. Krasai's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Ambassador Reynolds, your reputation precedes you. The diplomat who subdued the Thaxian delegation with a simple musical device. Impressive tactical thinking. That Jack began, but Nextara subtly stepped on his foot. The ambassador is too modest to discuss his previous diplomatic victories, Nextara interjected smoothly. Krasai gestured to a large circular table. We shall commence negotiations regarding the disputed systems. But first, traditional exchange of respect offerings. This was the moment. Jack carefully removed the small succulent plant from its protective container. The plant, a variety of Earthischeveria, sat innocently in its ceramic pot, its blue-green rosette pattern catching the dim light. War Commander, I present this earth plant as a symbol of our desire for mutual growth and prosperity. Krasai accepted the plant with formal gravity. For a brief moment, Jack allowed himself to relax. No one was collapsing or convulsing. Make progress. Then the War Commander brought the plant closer to examine it, and the succulent, responding to the change in light and atmospheric composition, released a small puff of pollen. The fine particles settled on the Vorraxian's exoskeleton and immediately began to glow. Within seconds, all 3 Vorraxians were illuminated like biological nightlights, their once intimidating armor now radiating a cheerful fluorescent pink. The chamber fell dead silent. What? Krasai said with dangerous precision. Have you done to us? I had no idea it would react that way, Jack stammered, shooting a panicked look at Nextara, who appeared equally horrified. One of the other Vorraxians whispered something to Krasai, who suddenly became even more rigid. Our bioscanners indicate this effect will last for approximately 3 standard cycles. You have rendered our entire delegation visible to predators in our home environment. Predators? But you're advanced spacefaring warriors, who evolved from prey species. Krasai roared, our ancestors survived by blending with darkness. This is a deliberate humiliation tactic. The Vorraxian guards around the chamber raised their weapons. Jack could practically feel Commander Frost's future disappointment radiating across space. Then, in a moment of desperate inspiration, Jack did something completely unconventional. He started glowing too. Pulling a small emergency light from his pocket, he cracked it and rubbed the luminescent liquid over his hands and face. War Commander, this is a sacred human ritual when forming alliances with honored warriors, Jack improvised wildly. On Earth, we believe that those who would be allies must shine together, visible in the darkest times. He approached Krasai slowly, arms spread. If I have inadvertently initiated this ritual prematurely, I accept whatever consequence your honor demands, but know that I glow alongside you, as equals under the same stars. The tension in the room shifted perceptibly. Krasai's compound eyes studied Jack's glowing face. Your species willingly makes itself vulnerable to predators as a show of trust. Absolutely, Jack nodded solemnly, silently thanking his talent for spontaneous diplomacy saving balderdash. After a long pause, Krasai made a sound that the translator couldn't process. It took Jack a moment to realize the war commander was laughing. Perhaps there is more to humans than we understood. A species that turns vulnerability into strength. Interesting. We shall continue negotiations as equals who shine together. The weapons lowered. Next, Tara seemed to be breathing again. As they moved to the negotiation table, Krause keen toward Jack. But the next time you bring a gift, Ambassador Reynolds, perhaps a warning would be appropriate. Jack smiled weakly. Noted, War Commander, absolutely noted. Word travels fast in interstellar politics. Following the unexpectedly successful negotiations with the Vorraxians, which concluded with favorable terms for Earth, despite everyone involved glowing pink for Earth, 3 days Jack found himself reinstated to active diplomatic service. His reputation, however, had taken a strange turn. Have you seen these reports? Jack asked next Tara, who had remained assigned as his cultural advisor due to their now proven ability to navigate disasters together. He gestured to his data pad displaying interspecies communications. Human diplomatic weapons expert negotiates from position of strength. Reynolds' intimidation tactics yield results. Thaxian and Vorraxian incidents demonstrate Earth's psychological warfare capabilities. Jack dropped the pad on his desk. They think I'm doing this on purpose. Next, Tara's antennae twitched with amusement. Perhaps it's better than the alternative, admitting you cause interstellar incidents through sheer incompetence. Hey, I fixed both situations, didn't I? Yes, through methods that can only be described as chaotically inspired. Their banter was interrupted by a notification chime. An encrypted transmission request from an unknown source. Jack glanced at next Tara, who shrugged her slender shoulders. At diplomatic channels only, she noted. Should be safe. Jack accepted the call. The screen flickered to life, revealing a hooded figure with mottled grey skin and unsettlingly large eyes. Ambassador Reynolds, the figure whispered, I am Delegate Morth of the Shadowing Collective. We must speak urgently and in absolute secrecy. Jack straightened in his chair, trying to project diplomatic composure. I'm listening, Delegate. We have observed your methods. The neural disruption device deployed against the Thaxians. The bioluminescent agent used on the Vorraxians. Your techniques are impressive. About that, Jack began, but Morth continued. The Shadowing Collective faces increasing pressure from the Drevid Imperium. They have blocked our trade routes, restricted our colonization efforts. We require assistance. Jack frowned. I'm not sure I follow. And Morth leaned closer to the screen. We seek an alliance with Earth, Ambassador Reynolds. More specifically, we seek your special talents, your gift for creating incidents that leave opponents disoriented while maintaining plausible deniability. Next, Tara made a choking sound off camera. Delegate Morth, Jack said carefully, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Those incidents weren't planned psychological warfare. They were accidental cultural misunderstandings that... Morth's lipless mouth formed what might have been a smile. Of course, Ambassador. Accidental. We understand the need for official positions. Your discretion is precisely why we seek this partnership. His skill. He's outraged. No, really, I'm not some mastermind. I'm just a guy who's really bad at picking gifts. Your humility is commendable, but unnecessary. The Drevid delegation will be attending the multi-species summit next month. A simple accident in their presence would create leverage for both our peoples. Jack stared at the screen in horror. Are you asking me to deliberately sabotage diplomatic relations with another species? Not sabotage. Simply employ your unique talents. Delegate Morth, I have to be very clear. I don't intentionally create diplomatic incidents. Morth's eyes narrowed. I see. Playing at a higher level than anticipated. You wish to maintain complete separation between official channels and operational activities. Be most prudent. That's not what I. We shall make arrangements for covert communication prior to the summit. Until then, Ambassador Reynolds, we consider our peoples informally allied. The Shadowing will stand ready to support Earth's interests. The transmission ended abruptly. Jack turned to next Tara. who looked as stunned as he felt. Did I just accidentally create a secret alliance with a species I'd never even heard of before? It appears so. Next Tara confirmed. The Shadowin are notoriously paranoid and isolated. No one has successfully allied with them in generations. Great. And now they think I'm some kind of covert diplomatic saboteur who's going to help them against the what was it? Dravid Imperium. A significant economic power in the outer systems. Jack rubbed his temples. If I tell Commander Frost about this, she'll never believe I didn't do it on purpose. If you don't tell her, and the Shadowin act on this assumed alliance, then we could have an actual diplomatic crisis, Jack groaned. I need to fix this before the summit. Next Tara's antennae drooped slightly. Perhaps, don't bring any gifts to the summit. Absolutely not. No gifts. No music, no plants. Nothing. Unfortunately, Jack had already commissioned something special for the historic event. Something he was absolutely certain couldn't possibly cause trouble. It's just a hologram, he assured himself. What could go wrong with light? The Grand Assembly Hall of the Neutral Zone Station was an architectural marvel designed to accommodate 12 different species comfortably, with an achievement that meant it was slightly uncomfortable for everyone involved. Jack had arrived early to acclimate to the adjusted gravity and breathing mixture. Commander Frost cornered him immediately. Reynolds, she said, her voice carrying that special tone reserved exclusively for him, part resignation, part preemptive damage control. We need to establish some ground rules for this summit. Absolutely, Commander. I'm fully prepared to represent humanity with dignity and... No gifts, Reynolds. No. Gifts. She enunciated each word as if explaining rocket science to a particularly obtuse hamster. No tokens of appreciation. No cultural exchanges. No peace offerings. Nothing from Earth touches alien hands. Are we clear? Jack hesitated. The custom holographic art piece he'd commissioned was already programmed into his personal data device. It was a stunning three-dimensional representation of the known galaxy, highlighting the territories of all attending species with their cultural symbols interwoven. It had cost 3 months' salary. Completely clear, Commander, he lied. Frost studied his face. I don't believe you. I'm wounded by your lack of trust. You made the Thaxians convulse and turned the Vorraxians into glow sticks. Ancient history. It was less than a year ago. Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of the first delegations. Jack recognized the Thaxians, who gave him a wide berth, and the Vorraxians, who surprisingly nodded in respectful acknowledgement. Several other species filed in, including a group of crystalline beings who appeared to float rather than walk, and tall, spindly creatures with too many joints in their limbs. Those are the Dravids, next Tara whispered, pointing discreetly to a delegation of regal-looking humanoids with golden skin and elaborately patterned head crests. The ones the Shadowin are concerned about? Jack asked. Yes, and speaking of which, next Tara tilted her head toward a darkened corner where hooded figures had slipped in almost unnoticed, with the Shadowin delegation. One of them made a subtle gesture toward Jack that might have been a covert salute. This is going to be complicated, Jack muttered. The summit proceedings began with formal introductions and statements of purpose. As Earth's designated representative, Jack delivered humanity's opening remarks flawlessly, earning an almost approving nod from Commander Frost. Maybe, just maybe, he could get through this without incident. Then came the cultural exchange portion of the summit, the traditional sharing of non-political aspects of each civilization. The Thaxians performed a harmonic resonance demonstration, carefully calibrated not to affect any species' neural systems. The crystalline beings, called the Lumina, created beautiful light patterns throughout the chamber. When Earth's turn arrived, Jack stepped forward, very aware of Frost's warning glare. On behalf of Earth, I would like to share a visual representation of our shared galactic community, he announced. Before Frost could intervene, Jack activated his data device. The hologram blossomed in the center of the chamber, a breathtaking three-dimensional map of the galaxy with highlighted territories and symbolic cultural elements for each species present. Murmurs of appreciation rose from several delegations. For about 15 seconds, it was perfect. Then the hologram interacted with the lingering light particles from the luminar demonstration. The combination created an unexpected prismatic effect that refracted through the chamber. Beautiful, but harmless for most species. The Dravids, however, processed visual information differently. Their retinal structures, evolved under a binary star system, interpreted the specific refraction pattern as something entirely different from what everyone else saw. To the Dravid delegation, the hologram suddenly appeared to display a tactical invasion map of their home systems, with Earthships positioned for attack. The Dravid ambassador shot to his feet. What is the meaning of this blatant threat? You display conquest plans at a peace summit? The chamber erupted in confusion. The Dravids were shouting. The Thaxians, assuming another human weapon had been deployed, dove under their seats. The Vorraxians looked almost impressed. And in the corner, the shadow in delegation was making what appeared to be subtle thumbs-up gestures toward Jack. It's just a star map, Jack protested, frantically trying to shut down the hologram. There's no invasion plan. Commander Frost had buried her face in her hands, having apparently reached the final stage of diplomatic grief, complete acceptance of inevitable disaster. The Dravid ambassador was now demanding Jack's removal from the summit. Security drones hovered uncertainly. The Vorraxian war commander Krasek had drawn what looked suspiciously like a ceremonial dagger. Jack had seconds to salvage the situation before interstellar relations collapsed entirely. With a flash of inspiration born from pure desperation, he did the only thing he could think of. He walked directly into the hologram. The projection shimmered around him as he stood at its center. Distinguished delegates, he called out, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. I invite the Dravid ambassador to join me here, in what you perceive as an invasion plan. The golden-skinned ambassador hesitated, then proudly strode forward to stand opposite Jack within the holographic display. What we each see here is different, Jack continued. Where you see threat, others see beauty. Where you see invasion, I see connection. He extended his hand. This is the fundamental challenge of diplomacy, isn't it? Not just translating words, but perceptions. The chamber had gone quiet. Perhaps, Jack suggested, if we could each describe exactly what we see, we might understand how differently our species perceive the same reality. The Dravid ambassador studied Jack for a long moment, then nodded slowly. A practical demonstration of perceptual relativism. Interesting approach, Ambassador Reynolds. What had begun as a crisis transformed, over the next hour, into an unprecedented exchange of perceptual experiences across species. Each delegation described what they saw in the hologram, revealing fascinating insights into their neurological and cultural frameworks. Even Commander Frost looked cautiously impressed as the summit shifted from confrontation to collaboration. As the delegates dispersed for a recess period, Frost approached Jack. Reynolds, she said, her voice a complex mixture of exasperation and reluctant admiration. I explicitly told you no gifts. Technically, Commander, it wasn't a gift, it was a visual aid that nearly started a war with the Dravid Imperium, but instead created a breakthrough in cross-species understanding. Frost sighed deeply. I can never decide if you're the worst diplomat in human history or some kind of accidental genius. Jack grinned. Why not both? The final day of the multi-species summit arrived with an atmosphere of cautious optimism. What had begun as a series of diplomatic disasters had somehow evolved into the most productive interstellar conference in recent memory. The Dravid incident, rather than derailing proceedings, had sparked genuine dialogue about perceptual differences between species. The Vorraxians had proposed standardized protocols for cross-species visual communications. Even the Thaxians had cautiously suggested research into safe frequency ranges for multi-species gatherings. Jack sat in the Earth delegation's preparation room, reviewing notes for the closing ceremony, when Commander Frost entered with an uncharacteristically perplexed expression. Reynolds, there's something you should see. She activated the room's display screen, showing the summit's main concourse. A peculiar scene was unfolding. Representatives from various species were gathered around tables where items were being carefully examined by beings in protective gear. What am I looking at? Jack asked. The first interspecies gift exchange, Frost replied, apparently inspired by your contributions. Jack blinked in surprise. They're exchanging gifts after everything that happened? Yes, but notice the protocols. Jack looked closer. Each gift was being scanned by multiple devices. Some were contained in neutralization fields. Teams of specialists in protective gear were documenting reactions and testing for unexpected effects. They've established safety procedures, he realized. More than that, Frost said, handing him a data pad. They're calling it the Reynolds Protocol for Interspecies Cultural Exchange. The document outlined elaborate procedures for handling gifts between species with different biological and perceptual systems. It included quarantine periods, specific testing requirements, and a classification system for potential reaction severities. They named it after me. But all I did was cause problems. Apparently, that's exactly the point. Frost scrolled through the document. According to this preamble, your consistently unpredictable, yet ultimately beneficial cultural exchanges demonstrated the need for structured approaches to cross-species interactions. Jack stared at the screen. So my diplomatic disasters actually advanced interstellar relations by highlighting critical oversights in our protocols. Frost's mouth twitched in what might almost have been a smile. The universe works in mysterious ways, Reynolds. The ceremony that afternoon was unlike anything Jack could have imagined when he'd first stepped aboard that shuttle to meet the Thaxians all those months ago. The Galactic Cooperative, as they now called themselves, had drafted preliminary agreements on everything from trade routes to cultural exchanges. Representatives spoke of the Reynolds incidents as catalyzing events that had exposed the complexities of genuine interspecies communication. When Jack was called to the speaking platform, he approached with uncharacteristic humility. Distinguished delegates, he began, when I first entered diplomatic service, I brought with me a human trait that has defined our species throughout history, the ability to create absolute chaos without even trying. Appreciative laughter rippled through the chamber. But perhaps that is humanity's unique contribution to this galactic community. We are unpredictable. We make mistakes. We cause unexpected reactions. He gestured around the room, and yet, here we all are, communicating more honestly than ever before. From the Thaxian section, High Emissary Vorraxian rose. The humans have demonstrated that true understanding comes not from perfect protocol, but from recovering together when protocols fail. War Commander Kraz AK of the Vorraxians stood next. They have shown that vulnerability, even glowing pink vulnerability, can become strength when shared. Even the Dravid ambassador nodded agreement. And they have proven that different perceptions need not lead to conflict, but can instead expand collective understanding. The closing ceremony concluded with the formal adoption of the Reynolds Protocol and, to Jack's utter astonishment, the creation of a new diplomatic position, the Chief Coordinator of Interspecies Cultural Integration, a role created specifically for him. As delegates filed out of the chamber, Nextara approached Jack with her version of a smile. Congratulations, Ambassador. You've created a diplomatic framework based entirely on your ability to cause accidental disasters. I'm not sure if that's a compliment, Jack replied. Among my people, it would be. We have a saying, the path to wisdom is paved with fortunate mistakes. Commander Frost joined them, reviewing data on her pad. The Shadowing have formally requested you as their primary diplomatic contact, Reynolds. Apparently they believe you single-handedly neutralized the Dravid threat through masterful psychological tactics. Should I tell them it was all just luck and improvisation? Frost fixed him with a stern look that slowly melted into resignation. At this point, Reynolds, I'm not entirely sure it was. As they left the chamber, Jack noticed a small crowd gathered around an airlock entrance. A delivery pod had arrived containing Earth's latest diplomatic shipment. What's that? He asked a passing technician. Due gifts from Earth for the finalized treaties. Don't worry, they're being processed according to the Reynolds protocol. Full containment. Hazard team standing by. Jack watched as technicians in protective gear carefully removed a simple potted plant from the shipment and placed it in a containment field. Is all this really necessary? He wondered aloud. From behind him, a chorus of voices, human and alien alike, responded in perfect unison. Yes, Ambassador Reynolds. It absolutely is. And that is why, to this day, no species in the galaxy accepts a human peace gift without a bomb squad present, just to be safe. Beethoven.